So from Detroit, you go down to Atlanta and look in that quarterback room, Brett Farve.
Yeah, Brett, and I had Brett, Billy Joe Tolliver, and Chris Miller. And the first year, Brett was a rookie, and I think he'll tell you this same thing. He had some off-the-field issues. I don't know that he was sober at any night that he came to. And I've heard him tell the story, too, so I'm not saying anything about it. But Brett, well, we kind of knew Brett was Brett, and that he was going to be the quarterback that he developed to be. But at that time, we were number one in offense in the league, and Chris Miller just made the Pro Bowl, throwing 48 touchdowns, 12 picks. And so we wanted to get some defensive help. And so I said to the owner and Jerry, I said, listen, I said, we've got this young kid. I said, he's not going to beat Chris Miller out for a couple of years, and he's going to be up for free agency when he finally is. And I said, we're going to lose him anyway. And so we had these, everyone was, how did Brett Favre get traded? Well, number one, he probably should have been traded for the way he acted his rookie year. But at the same time, we knew he was a player, and we wanted defensive help, so we traded him to Green Bay for a first-round pick, I think, a late first-round pick. And we ended up not even taking a defensive player, that was the stupidest thing ever.
There's the stories how Brett Favre didn't know what a nickel defense was. Did he have a hard time picking up the offense?
Yes and no. He was a little like Jim Kelly learning it, but he was really one of those guys that when everything broke down, he made something work. He could slide in the pocket, he'd find somebody else. He was definitely a rep guy like Jim, but at the same time, a great quarterback.
Man, you coached some incredible quarterbacks during your career. Unbelievable. I kind of laugh on the offensive line. We talked about Mike Kent earlier, your teammate, and now he's still playing, and now you're a coach.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think I extended Mike's career for however long I was there, 3 years anyway, because we were a pass-blocking team. And Mike Kent is one of the premier pass blockers in the history of the game. And the reason they were almost done with him when I got there is because he wasn't as physical a run blocker as he was when he was a rookie and second, third, fourth year guy. So those last 3 years for me, he didn't. We practiced like they practice now. We didn't have pads on. We pass protected. We didn't tackle at practice. And so, when you're a 17, 18, 19, 20-year player, you kind of like to do that and just play in the games. And Mike really excelled at that. In fact, I think he made the Pro Bowl with me as a tackle.
In New Orleans, we didn't take the pads off all season long during the week. Yeah. By the end of the year, we were just beat down. When you got to Atlanta, Deion Sanders was on the team. Were you trying to get him over on offense?
I did put him on offense. In fact, I was the first one to do that. In fact, I talked to Deion all the time, and we got to go back on some of those things. I had realized when I got there in 89 and 90, my first season was 91. And in 89 and 90, okay, he had his hands on the football like 4 times. Every 4 times he touched the football, 50%, 47% of the time he scored a touchdown. Now that is the hardest way to get it, an interception, a punt return, or a kickoff return. So every 4 times he touched the ball, he's going to score a touchdown almost two times out of every 4. And so I told Jerry, I said, Jerry, we need to just give him some base routes, and I won't give him the read routes, but I'll give him the locked routes, and we need to just teach him to play receiver. So that year, 91, you can go back and look at it. I can't remember. I think he caught, I'm probably wrong on this, but I know the numbers are pretty close. I think he caught like 10 passes and either 7 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns, out of 10 passes. And so then he wanted to play receiver more when he got traded to San Francisco. Bill didn't let him play, and George Hebert didn't let him play. But when he got to Jimmy Johnson, they let him play receiver in Dallas.
In '93, I see where you had your old quarterback Gagliano. He followed you everywhere.
He did. We took it. Well, it was always important that when we were putting the routes in, that people could see they worked. And so when you had a quarterback that knew what you were doing, and Bob was our guy, the rest of the team kind of bought in faster. And that's true of the receivers, too. Like I brought Drew Hill to Atlanta, Ricky Sanders to Atlanta, all those guys that played in the offense. So when you're putting the offense in and you're trying to teach rookies and teach guys that have never been in it what to do, it's always easier than just being on the chalkboard and say, okay, they do this, you do that. When they see a receiver actually do it on the field, it becomes easier. And so I always would drag some veteran guys around with me.
You had my old quarterback from the Saints, Bobby Hebert.
Oh, well, Bobby was one of my favorites. We traded Wade Wilson, or Wade Wilson was signed in free agency to the Saints. And, I just wish I had Bobby when he was 25 years old. He ended up making his only Pro Bowl, which was shocking to me. His only Pro Bowl was for me in 1993. All the years you guys were 12-4, 11-5.
About that?
He didn't make a Pro Bowl, and Bobby studied it so much; it was unbelievable. I can remember calling his wife Teresa one night on a Thursday night and said, "This is Coach Jones. I need to talk to Bobby." And she told me, she said, "Well, Bobby's in studying, and he doesn't want to be bothered." And I said, "Well, this is Coach Jones." I said, "Don't tell him I'm on the phone." Well, we're not to interrupt him when he's in watching the film. And so I had to beg her to go knock on the door to get him out of there. But he studied, and he knew, and he was prepared. And when I got him in '93, his arm, he had an elbow issue and really couldn't throw the ball but 45 yards. But he executed and did what I asked him to do, and he was as competitive as there was.
The real question is, how long did it take where you could understand him?
Well, it was always funny because the more you're around him, you started to learn the language. It's kind of like it was like they talk pidgin English out here in Hawaii. The more you're around him, you kind of learn it. And that's the same with Bobby and the Cajun talk.